We are live.
We are live. Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. It's
Good.
cold and snowy, but you know what? Buckeye Chuck did not see his shadow this morning, so we do not have 6 more weeks of winter in Ohio. I don't
Oh,
care what that Pennsylvania groundhog saw. He can do his own thing. Buckeye Chuck said no. So,
that's right. I'm with you on that.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's.
Okay, everybody. So today we are doing comfort food. This cold weather has got me thinking about warm, cozy food where you can snuggle in your belly and get warm. So we're doing chicken and dumplings, and then one recipe I've kind of added in is a hurried up baked apple. So we're going to do that one as well. Again, my name is Johnna Miller, and I am an employee of Ohio State University through the Ross County Extension Office, and I work for a program called Ohio Snap Ed. And I want to point out a couple of our websites there that I always send you to for good recipes and good information. Number one there is the celebrateyourplate.org. That is a great place to go for recipes and information. And then the choosemyplate.gov. I'm sure you've all been there. If you need anything to know anything about nutrition, the food guidelines, the My Plate is the place to go. So choosemyplate.gov. All right, Kathy, if you want to move on to my next one there. So I want to do a little comparison on the old-fashioned chicken and dumplings that Grandma might have made for us versus the version that I'm going to do this afternoon, which is a lightened up version of, that's not what it's called, that's what I'm calling it, chicken and dumplings. So you can see the ingredient panel there for the one for the old-fashioned chicken and dumplings. It's 7 pounds of cut up chicken pieces, 4 cups of chicken stock, and then there's your veggies in there, and there's some milk, and then there's some unsalted butter. So there's a lot of fat there. If you stop and think about, just imagine 7 pounds of cut up chicken pieces, and that's including the skin where all the fat is on the chicken. So I'm going to go over to the lightened up version now, and you're going to see that we're using low sodium chicken broth. So that's not going to, add a lot of sodium in there. We're going to use 1 pound of boneless, skinless chicken. So if you take the bones and the skin off of there, most of the fat is going to be around the bone. And also pretty much all of it's going to be in that skin. So taking that skin off is going to eliminate a lot of the fat. And then all of our veggies there. And you're going to see that there's no butter. There is no milk in there, no whole milk in there. We're going to use some low-fat milk in our dumplings. So if you look at the difference for the old-fashioned, you're getting 400 calories per serving. And you're getting 2.65 grams of fat. And then 699.5 milligrams of sodium and salt. We should only have 2,300 milligrams of salt a day. So this is almost, well over half or well over a third of our daily salt in that one serving. And that's probably only a 1 cup serving. So if you look at the lightened up version, 190 calories, which is less than half. You're still getting 22 grams of protein, not quite as much there. But you're only getting 4 grams of fat versus the 25.6 grams. So that's just amazing. And then you also are down to 500 milligrams of salt. So lightening it up is mainly, it's going to take a lot of that fat out of there. And you're going to be surprised when you make this recipe. You're really not going to notice it all that much. Okay, Kathy, next slide, please. Now I'm going to tell you, I cheated a little bit tonight. I'm going to do the recipe just a little different than what we normally do because this does take a little more time. And I didn't think you all wanted to hang out with me for 45 minutes because I know it's getting late in the day and you're probably thinking about making dinner. So what I put in the actual chicken, the stock and the vegetable part here, I had, the recipe calls for frozen vegetables. I didn't have a bag of mixed vegetables. So it also calls for your diced onion, carrots, and celery. So you see that I got that there. So since I didn't have the frozen mixed vegetables, I diced up a potato, and then I had a piece of a zucchini that was left over from a dinner I made earlier, or actually over the weekend. So I sliced that up in there. I had a jar of my home canned green beans, and then I had some frozen corn. So I used that instead of using the frozen vegetables. So whatever mixture you want as far as your vegetables, that's all you have to do is kind of come up with that. And then for my chicken, I'm going to tell you right now, I was just kind of being lazy. Instead of cutting up that chicken, I would normally use like the chicken tenderloins is what I normally buy, like the long strips of chicken, and cut those up. But I had this canned chicken, so I used that instead. And I got some low sodium broth. So probably this is going to be lower sodium even than what I showed you there on my little graphic a little bit ago. And then my Italian seasoning. Okay, Kathy, if you want to go ahead and put back to me live. So I've got the chicken already. Like I said, the chicken and the veggies are here in this pot, and there's a gentle simmer here. So I'm going to do the part that usually really kind of everybody's like, I don't know how to do this. And that's make the dumplings. Okay. So the recipe calls for either a cup of biscuit mix. That's like the prepackaged biscuit mix that you can buy, or you can make your own. And I'm going to show you how super, super quick that is. Okay. So it's got the ingredients on here. It is a cup of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and which I'm probably only put maybe a half teaspoon in there, and then a half a cup of low-fat milk. That's all that's in these dumplings. It's not really that hard, not that complicated. So I'm going to start off with my bowl here. Already washed my hands. I've got my cup of flour pre-measured out. So I'll put that in my bowl here. Okay, put that down there. And then I'm going to measure out my 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And make sure you always use the top of the can there to level off especially with baking powder, you want to make sure you don't put too much or too little. Baking powder is something you have to really be exact with when you're measuring, because it's going to make it either rise or not rise, or whatever you're making. So we want these to turn into like little mini biscuits when we put them in our broth. So we want to make sure that they work together. Got the right amount in there. I can't talk. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spoon. I want to stir that baking powder in and get it distributed really well throughout my flour. That way, like I said, baking powder is something that you've got to be a little exact with, and you want to make sure that it's going to get into all of this, be evenly distributed throughout all of it. I'm getting it everywhere. Okay, so I already have my half a cup of milk here. I'm going to pour this in, and then I'm just going to stir this around until it starts making like it's like a really thick batter. If you've ever made biscuits from scratch, it's kind of the same thing, only just with a few less ingredients. Okay. And if your dough seems like a little dry, you can always add in just a little bit more milk. And it was looking like mine might be, so let me get my milk here. Let's add just a little bit more. I'm just going to put in just a splash. Don't want to put too much because you don't want it to be too runny or they won't set up properly. Okay. Okay. And you're just going to knead that around and stir it till it's just all well moistened. See how it looks in the bowl there? Just like a big old blob of biscuit dough. Put your muscles into it. Okay, so that's how it looks from the bowl when you get it all mixed together. It's just like biscuit dough. Okay, so let me bring you over here to the stove. So here you go, guys. You're going to fly across the room a little bit. And as I said, I've got my broth all together here. It's bubbling really nice and steady. You want to make sure your broth is up to heat and bubbling. You want to make sure it's boiling, not rolling boil, but an even boil. Because if it's not hot enough, your dumplings will just kind of dissolve out into the broth. You won't actually have them set up. So you want to make sure that it's actually rolling along and nice and hot, so that when you drop these dumplings in, it's going to kind of seal the outside of them real fast and give them a chance to cook the rest of the way through. Okay, so you're just going to take about, I just got a regular serving tablespoon here, and I'm going to start dropping these dumplings. Let me turn it up a little bit. I want my heat to go down since I took my lid off. I'm going to take my finger, and I'm just going to start laying them on top of my broth there. And you want these to be distributed out. You'll see I'll just kind of lay them around the pan. Try not to let them touch, but you got to leave enough room because you're going to have the whole top of this covered with these dumplings, okay? So space them around. This is the fun, sticky part. Kids usually get into this if they're old enough. You don't have to worry about being around the hot liquid. And you see how I'm laying them in there, just so that they're nice and even. And they're you're going to cover the top of this. And the heat of your broth is going to cook these into drop dumplings. This is a fine art that somebody's grandma up with a long, long time ago. And it has turned into, in my mind, one of the premier comfort foods in the world. I am a big dumpling fan, if you can't tell. Okay, almost got it there. And then once I get these all in here, you're going to just let this cook. Now, you don't want to put the lid on it, because if you put the lid on it, it's going to make them, they're not going to get, they will get to almost like a biscuit consistency inside, but if you put the lid on, they will more than likely turn to mush. So you want to cook them uncovered. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I got enough. Well, maybe got enough there for a little baby one. Don't want to waste any of that goodness, do we? Okay. So you can see in there, they're just going to sit there and they're going to simmer and they're going to cook until they're all nice and dumpling-y, if that is a word. Okay, so that's the part that a lot of people freak out about while making chicken and dumplings. It's like, well, how do you get the dumplings in there? I've got some family members. I make chicken and noodles. They think the noodles is the hard part. The noodles is the easy part. It's the broth and getting your seasoning right. So, really work on getting the seasoning to something your family likes. All right, so our next thing is going to be, while the dumplings are cooking, we're going to go ahead and do these hurry-up baked apples. And I sent this recipe, and I'm pretty sure Kathy will have it in the notes section. If she doesn't have it, I'll make sure she does after the class is over with, and we'll get it listed up there for you, because I kind of added this one in at the end. So what we're going to do is we are going to take, this is a super quick, and this is my answer to, comfort food, apple pie. Well, this is going to be a quick version of it that you can do during the evening when you're getting home and you don't have time to make an apple pie, or even want to make an apple pie. So I've just got 2 medium, and I don't remember what kind of apples these are, but they're a nice sweet apple. The recipe says to use a tart apple. You can use whatever kind of apple you want. So we're going to start off, and this is made in the microwave, guys. So this is something really super simple. I'm going to start off. I'm going to cut my apples, cut them in half, right dead down the center. Okay. And this is going to make 4 servings, obviously, if you got 2 apples, right? So if you got a family of 4, this is dessert's going to be covered. All right. And then we're going to take your knife here, and you're going to slice off just a little sliver off the back side. So see how it keeps it from rolling? Because we're going to set these in the microwave, and we want them to set flat. So I'm doing that now because I forget to do it sometimes. And I go, oh, shoot, I got everything stuffed in there, and I got to cut that off of there. So I'm doing it now before I do that. Watch your fingers. Don't be like me. Oops, I think I better turn my pot pie down just a little bit. I got to bubble too hard over here. Okay. So let's see how they all will set nice and flat. I'm going to put them on a plate here in just a minute. Now you're going to take a spoon you want something that's got like a point on it, because you're going to dig in there, and you're going to dig the cores out of these apples. Okay. So just kind of work it around. And you want to make sure that you don't go all the way through, because you're going to stuff these apples with some stuffing here in just a second. And you're going to hollow it out so you've got a good, maybe inch hole there. And I'm going to take my knife here. I got a paring knife to cut off these little, from the stem. You don't want that little fuzzy piece in there that's left in there. Okay, so there's that one. And I'll take my spoon and do it again. Just walk around and pop that core out of there. Like I said, be careful you don't go clear through. You want to make sure that you're leaving some apple in the bottom of it. And then whittle some of it out, because you want to be able to stuff our little stuffing mix that we're going to put together in there. Okay, and then once again, I'm going to take this, cut that little piece out of there. All right, so I think we'll just do 2 for right now. Now, your stuffing for your apples is going to be, as you can see back here, I've got some walnuts. Well, I almost got some walnuts. That bag's about empty. My huge bag of cranberries that I keep around. Some brown sugar. Some oats. and some cinnamon, okay? So you want a total of 2 tablespoons total of the walnuts and the cranberries. So I've already got them mixed together. There's 2 tablespoons combined. So you don't need 2 tablespoons of cranberries and 2 tablespoons of walnuts. I guess actually you're probably saying 1 tablespoon of each. I don't know why they didn't say it that way. And then we're going to take 2 tablespoons of the oatmeal. These are just quick oats. You could use regular oats if that's all you got. That's not a big deal. 2 tablespoons of the oats. And then, let's see, 1/4 teaspoon of the cinnamon. And I'm going to improvise here. I've just got my teaspoon here. So about 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And a teaspoon of brown sugar, packed, okay? So when it says packed, I don't know if y'all have ever really thought about that. I'm sure most of you do know. But what you want to do is, see how I've got that raised up there? You want to make sure that you don't make a mess like I just did, but you want to pack it so it's level. That way you know there's no holes down there, so you're getting a full teaspoon of the brown sugar, okay? I got that everywhere. I'm going to take my spoon, and I'm going to mix this all together. And it's just going to make kind of a granola looking stuff, okay? So let me get my plate here. We'll set these on a microwave safe plate. And I'm going to take my filling here, and I'm going to fill those cores where the core of that apple was. And you want to make sure that you're getting some of that cinnamon. It'll tend to fall down in the bottom of there, but you want to make sure you get some of that in there. So dig down deep in the bottom of the bowl every time you do, so you get some of your cinnamon and your sugar as well, okay? And this kind of just, you can spread some on on the top of the apple too, because these are going to sit in the microwave and they're going to cook up a little bit. All right, get back up there. All right, now the instruction says to use plastic wrap and put it over top of it, and then a corner so it'll let some of the moisture out when it's in the microwave. Well, I'll tell you right now, me and plastic wrap have got a hate-hate relationship. I got it in my house because I have to, but I don't use it unless I have to. I really don't like to. So I've got my little microwave lid here that actually fits on the plate. So I'm going to pop this into the microwave. And we're going to put them in there for, let's see, what does it say? 3 to 3.5 minutes. So let's start this up for 3 minutes. Okay, now you can make these guys, if you got pears, you could do it with a pear. As far as stuffings, as far as the nuts, you could use the oats and the cinnamon are going to probably be your basic thing, but you can use any kind of nuts. You could use pecans. I've got walnuts, which is what I use. You could use raisins instead of cranberries. You could use any other kind of dried fruit that you might have around. Sometimes you might have like the chopped dates or figs, or even maybe some chopped pineapple. If you want to make it a little bit spicier, instead of just the cinnamon, you could put in a little bit of cloves. You can put just about anything you want to in here. I've actually thought about trying to do it and putting just a little bit of pumpkin in with my stuffing mix to make it a little bit moist. I got hair in my mouth. So anything you've got around as far as fruit, you can put it inside of these. And the bigger the apple, the more stuffing you can get in them. So, but the nice thing about them is I'm popping this in the microwave for 3 minutes. And we'll take it out and we'll let it set for a few minutes, and I'm going to have my dessert done. And how fast was that? You could make this stuff up and have it in a baggie, and just have your apples sitting on the counter. So, have it, just pop it in there. You got a dessert anytime really quick that you need to do. So let's check out our dumplings here. Let's go. See how they're cooking up in there? They are puffing up and they're getting nice sized. I tell you what, guys, this is a really good comfort food. So come on, apples, let's cook. Another thing you could do as far as the chicken and dumplings, you could make this beef and dumplings. If you had some really lean or shredded beef, you could put in there instead of the chicken. Like I said, you can put any kind of vegetable in. I will caution you, if you do use the frozen vegetables, they won't cook as quick as what I used. So you may want to cook it a little bit longer, because if you don't like crunchy vegetables, because Frozen vegetables will tend to keep, especially green beans, will keep that chewiness a little longer. So you might want to cook them a little ahead of time before you put them in with your chicken. You can actually have this whole recipe done the way I did it in about 30 to 35 minutes, start to finish, by using the canned vegetables or anything like that. So, all right. Well, these apples are starting to smell really good. And another thing with the broth on your chicken and dumplings, it thickens up pretty good because the dumplings will suck up a lot of the juice when you cook it. So you can always, if it's not thick enough, put in a little bit of flour, like a tablespoon of flour, into some water, and stir it up and thicken it up that way, just like you would if you were making gravy. Okay, let's check out our apples here.
Johnna,
What?
I have a question.
You got maybe an answer.
I wondered on the comparison of the two recipes. The old-fashioned said stock, and you're using broth. What is the difference between that?
Actually, a stock is going to be something that, like, if you would boil the chicken and you take that liquid directly from after you take the chicken out of it, that is a stock. It's going to have more. It's going to have like pieces of chicken still in there. A lot of people will make stocks by putting in vegetables and little tiny pieces of vegetables in there as well. The broth is going to be more or less a strained version of stock. It's been strained, just taken out a lot of the fat. It's going to not have any chunks of anything in it. So it's personal preference. I personally like broth better than stock because I don't like any surprises like little pieces of chicken bone or something in my stock. So it's just personal preference. And another thing too about it, I forgot to mention, as far as the chicken, if you stop and think about it, it's a lot cheaper in the long run. I know you pay more for like chicken breast where it's skinless, boneless, but you're also paying less for less bone and less skin and less fat. You're paying for it by the pound. So when you're buying skinless chicken breast or skinless chicken thighs, you're not paying for stuff that you're not actually going to eat. So it comes out, usually balances out pretty good. Okay, guys, want to see these apples? Voila! So these are nice and soft now. You can cut them with a fork. You can see it goes right in there. And I'm going to take a little bit of just vanilla yogurt and put on top of them. I mean, if you wanted to be really, really bad, I guess, you can put some whipped cream on there or anything like that. But these are really good, just with a little bit of yogurt put on top of them. Best dessert you can have, super, super quick. It was ready in, 5 minutes? You can't make an apple pie that quick. All right. Let me get some of this chicken and dumplings out on this plate here for you guys to see how good this stuff is. Actually, get it in my handy dandy little bowl here. All right, looky there, guys. So we've got chicken and dumplings, and we got apples. How's that for comfort food? What do you think, Kathy? Look like supper to you?
Oh, yes. I want to come over.
Come on down. I got plenty.
Yeah. And those apples look amazing.
These apples are really amazing. I was like, usually I'm a little leery of microwave dishes because they don't normally pick up. But these apples, I mean, it steams it just perfect. So you can cut them with a fork. You put that little bit of yogurt on top of them. It kind of gives you that, that whipped cream, ooey gooey in your belly.
Oh, yes.
It's better for you. You don't have the crust, which, crust is my favorite part of the pie. But, you get oats in there, which kind of makes up for that a little bit. So they're really good. Okay.
That was a great, comfort food. That's right.
Comfort food for a cold winter day. You can't beat it. So.
That's right.
Okay, well, we'll be back next week with the kids. And I think it's next week will be the last actual just kids class. But I think we're going to take them to just going to be cooking classes for the family after that. But next week we'll be doing drinks and snacks, I think. So check out that. We'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. All right. Well, you have a great week, Johnna.
You too.
All right.
Everybody
thank you.
Stay safe, stay warm.
Yes, you too.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.